It's actually kind of nice that the trigger topic word in supply chain is not tariffs for once. That is like, there's never a dull day in supply chain, I think exactly for that reason.
Are we designing products for the world we want or the supply chains we're stuck with?
Future of consumer businesses are going to be like under 10 people. China's the manufacturing center of the world.
So I'm curious to hear if you have seen, in terms of the redundancy too that you mentioned, that formulation flexibility becomes strategic, right? So something that I try to avoid in formulating products is a single source that's a complex mixture that I will never be able to obtain.
Supply chain itself is like a giant oil tanker. It doesn't turn quickly. Like you have to do these things before they happen.
Isn't creativity science or even regulation, but supply chain itself. In an industry obsessed with breakthrough ingredients and next-gen claims, we rarely stop and ask a more fundamental question: can the systems behind the scenes actually support the future we're trying to build? From raw material sourcing and traceability to geopolitical risk, sustainability pressures, and cost volatility, are we designing products for the world we want or the supply chains we're stuck with? Today, we're unpacking the invisible infrastructure of beauty, the part consumers never see, but that determines everything. And to help us do that, I'm joined by John Morgan, founder of Pelagic. Pelagic operates at the intersection of global sourcing, manufacturing strategy, and supply chain intelligence, helping brands navigate complexity from raw materials through finished goods. Welcome to the podcast, John.
Very well said, and very, very excited to be here.
Oh, so cool. We can just end the episode now then, right? It's just conclusion. Well, awesome. You and I previously worked together, and I'm really excited to see you using your expertise in this space. And you and I have connected numerous times before and talked about a lot of what founders and potentially people in the product development space or marketing space don't really know or understand about supply chain, and some of the, actually how you've built Pelagic to help them do this. We're kind of in I don't know if I can say unprecedented, but definitely a very interesting time, right? Where we've seen the cost of a barrel of oil go up 50% in less than 30 days. And, definitely some arising issues with supply chain that I'm sure your clients are immediately or acutely aware of. So, from your perspective, what feels most dynamic right now in beauty supply chains?
Yeah, it's actually kind of nice that the trigger topic word in supply chain is not tariffs for once. It's global oil shortages and energy cost. But that is, look, there's never a dull day in supply chain. I think exactly for that reason. There's so many problems to solve on every client level, but then you are also tracking and directly impacted by these big macro shifts and changes, and you got to keep track of those too and really stay ahead of them. And I think through our past experiences building some really cool brands, it's been very rewarding to be that same role that sits between either a very creative or very scientific person that is either the formulator or the founder CEO of these companies, and they tend to follow those profiles, and they have visions, or they know what's capable in the dream world, and we're kind of these pragmatic reality gurus that try to bring things back to like, well, look, you still have to make money, you still need to scale this business, you can't use that Himalayan ingredient that is only above 16,000 feet elevation or something. Like, you have to be able to like produce these things consistently. So when I look at a much larger data set beyond, one consumer brand that we worked on together into the broader beauty landscape, I think, and I hope sustainability is making a comeback or a move. That's it's been through phases, and it has like kind of a weird tarnished brand, and as the word sustainable in some ways too, because of a cycle of greenwashing. But ironically, the rising costs of some of these like petroleum adjacent inputs are actually creating some, like, the last 10 to 15% of cost parity for some really exciting bio-based or sustainable alternative plastics. I also think there's this like next tariff ghost on the horizon that is
Yeah.
EPR. And so
Yep.
I think
and please enlighten the guests that don't know, because I'm dealing with this right now, actually, for future forward thinking.
Yeah, it's like a lot of unknowns still, which is why the full red alert hasn't gone out, and it's happening at a state or more local level in terms of a rollout with a variety of requirements that are trying, and like no one really knows the enforcement mechanisms either. But the idea is like, hey, look, all these huge consumer companies are making tons of money, but they don't care about or know or aren't held responsible to the amount of waste they produce or where that waste ends up. So the new regulatory attempt to rein that in is extended producer responsibility, where you're going to be required to report or better understand the core materials, the where your materials come from, and be beholden to in some form of a fee or penalty or cost coverage to the costs you're creating to society in creating all that waste. So that's the highest level way I could describe it, but there's a lot of details to be worked out still.
Well, and for those that are listening in, this is actually something that is active. So, for instance, in Oregon, you producers or companies that sell into it have to make an estimate in terms of how much plastic they are selling into the company, and then pay an annual fee. And then, most urgently is SB 253, which is a climate regulation support out of California, right? That will require, will require all plastic single-use items to be at least 30% recyclable, and or have at least 30% post-consumer recyclable material in them. So yes.
So from a supply chain perspective, I'm sure there are hundreds or thousands of companies that don't even know what percent their current product or packaging is recycled. And now they have to go learn that, report it, and pay for it.
Yep.
by May, and just in case you're worried.
Well, 2028, but yes, it's fast approaching. And I guess, talking about there is a lot of dynamic things in supply chain, or things that would affect supply chain, but where are you seeing brands get smarter, or even where are you advising brands to get smarter?
Yeah, I think the one other category I'll just shout out kind of where you play, and I think it's really cool in the whole cosmetic space, is just the convergence of biotech into some of these consumer products it's extremely exciting. So love working with clients or companies like that, where they have incredible new ways of delivering, or very innovative new methods to impact and help people via these products. The next most fun buzzword topic that we're using more and more of in terms of the winners in the space that we're working with is obviously AI. AI is going to be around for a long time. I think I view this industry as it has entered a crazy R&D spike in terms of the capability of LLMs, and you have a very long tail of adoption or the realization of the efficiency or the improved strategic decision making the best operators and companies can now do by working with properly structured data and well-defined, well-organized workflows that sit on top of that. And so we are really excited to have 80 to 100 different companies we're working on and running at the same time. And so we're getting really good at, faster and faster than any one brand operator would, kind of what the best in class and what the most clunky kind of operational stack looks like to operate your business. And I would say, the future of consumer businesses are going to be under 10 people. We have clients that are doing north of 100 million annually, and they're 5 full-time hires with a army of expert consultants and AI agents. And that is an exciting future. That means lower G&A, lower COGS, pass through to your customers, hopefully, and more competitive. And I think maybe just to speak to the cosmetics industry overall, retail continues to rip and be a really powerful distribution point for a lot of our brands. And we're spending a lot of our time trying to over-engineer systems to interact with extremely clunky digital infrastructure that those retailers have built. They don't really care about efficiency or enjoyable experience for the
Sure.
brands they're selling. They're very
Yeah.
oriented towards like, how do we get in front of these customers in our aisles?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think just seeing certain founders run retail better than anyone else has
Yeah.
been pretty remarkable to witness too.
And what are some of the biggest misconceptions that you are still that your clients still have when they come to you?
That is a lot. Do you want to
I know, I was
narrow
kind of
it
like,
down?
yeah.
Like,
What is the one that you most frequently hear?
Frequently hear. I think everyone has like maybe in the AI age, I think people have like this sense that like things can get done in like days to weeks.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about supply chain or the production of physical goods and like iterating, improving,
Yeah.
that's a months to years thing. And we're actually built to help you do that as fast as possible than anyone else could in the industry in terms of standing up and building supply chains. But I do think like you have these founders who are like, I raised 8 months of burn. Now let's go develop this product. I'm like, cool. You might need more than 8 months based on how complex you want to make this thing. Right. And so, like especially you have these really brilliant, like I came out of Apple and software was so easy and they start, building their dream cosmetics brand and they're like, it's taken me 2 years and these crazy long lead times to get samples. And
there's the immovable things when it comes to physical goods, right? That just take time. I could see that being kind of a source of frustration it still is for people that realize it. So, not a day goes by that I don't have a client that's been in the industry for 10 years be like, so we can do this in 8 months, right? I'm like, sure.
I love the founder who's like, Target just said they'll buy this from me if I get it to them in 2 months. I go, can you make it?
Yeah. You pitched a dream, but good job. Yes. And, talking about going back a little bit to the tariffs and, you've mentioned it and we might not be talking about it the most right now, but I still am getting quotes from raw material vendors, right? Where it's like, here's the price per kilo. Then it's like, plus this extra tariff. Where are you seeing the tariff still having the most impact in beauty? Is it in the raw materials, the packaging, the finished goods, all of it?
Yeah, I think tariffs have mood swings.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that they themselves have been so dynamic in the last year and a half, like in terms of country to country negotiations, or now like what the Supreme Court finds legal and allowed to do within the US. So, and then you've also seen like a changing appetite at a policy maker level around like which industries should be more or less heavily tariffed. Like we had one client, outside cosmetics, I remember our government was like, we're coming after furniture. Like, here's the warning now. And you're like, well, okay, why? But like, so in terms of predictability, there's no real way to say like, oh, I'm going to go be tariff proof, right? Like I think the intensity is everywhere across supply chain. And I think just the biggest one I'll point to that is, China's the manufacturing center of the world. And that's kind of the deal of deals that remains to be unresolved. And so you'll continue to see impacts on packaging, manufacturing, and just global freight in terms of like the volumes coming out of China until that gets more opened back up. So tariffs are fun. I think the best way I can advise people to start handling them is that you need to have redundancies. It is expensive to build redundancies in your supply chains, and to what extent or degree, right? If you have some crazy boutique trademarked IP protected ingredient, that's a harder thing to build redundancy around. But whatever you can go create approved on brand redundancies, you just want to have that like ready for in case it happens. And you don't have to give volumes to those relationships necessarily. You just want to have shortened the amount of time it takes
Yeah.
to create an equivalent component of your product, so that in the case that occurs, the compounding bullwhip effects to your supply chain are mitigated. So
Yeah.
you don't have to go stock out. You just go, great, we already have an approved alternative spec'd in partner. They are in Mexico. And
Yeah.
so like, I live in San Diego. I'm maybe biased, but Mexico remains like a ridiculously advantaged, low labor cost
Yeah.
part of the world, with like direct access to the largest consumer market in the world, with minimal tariff
Yeah.
limitations. So I think China, Mexico, China, India, there's like a few different ways you could think about geographic strategy and redundancy. Completely depends on what it is you're trying to manufacture. And there are industries that, like China has completely outcompeted on an economics basis or capability set,
Yeah.
based on some blend of robotics or government incentive. And so
Yeah.
like, I understand that you might be paying 2x, but you still just have to have the capability set
Sure.
like ready to be tariff resilient.
And how do you think about this in terms of like pricing resiliency? So I often think of, gas prices, right? They're very reflective and able to, go higher or lower dependent upon, how much is being released. But brands don't really have that. You don't see a lot of brands saying, okay, well, I got to increase this because of this, short-lived event. So when you're advising about, redundancy, is there a bit of price resiliency that they need to factor in too?
Yes, definitely. I think that we observed some of our clients be very proactive and public to their consumer about tariff shocks to their price.
Yeah.
And it was received in a variety of ways. I think my recommendation in how you work with your supply chain on a price resiliency basis is that you want to try to get through these externalities or periods of uncertainty together in like a creative shared economic mitigation strategy, as when it relates to like how to decide if we should raise the price of your product $3 more because the impacts are that severe on your cogs. Like, I try to leave that to the marketing teams. Like, I know there are many other roll-on impacts from like customer acquisition costs go
Sure,
up.
yeah.
You're now competing with a new audience. Depends on your customer profile and how affluent they might be.
Yeah.
So like, you have to be open to it. I just think that there's like a whole other cautionary tale in science. And depending on, let's say, like culture and like how society perceives a shock, like a lot of people got really behind defending Ukraine and no one seems to want the Iran war. And so like, depending on how that's seen, you saying, well, because of this, we're going to charge you more might actually anger your customer. And you got to be careful.
Okay, real quick. Raise your hand if you have dealt with active instability. If you have ever opened a jar of retinol cream and smelt an off odor or noticed your formula went dark brown, chances are you are dealing with active instability. It's never fun when the formula you've been working on goes south and the due date is only days away. That's why we've encapsulated the trickier ingredients to work with so you can kick the stability struggle to the curb. From retinol to vitamin C, we make it easier to work with those ingredients that typically give you that 3 p.m. headache. The cellulose shell shields the active from outside exposure. Things like air and light that are likely to cause active breakdown, giving you the power to create stable and effective formulas without the trial and error. Ready to quickly create effective skincare formulas? Discover Tagra's Cellucaps line by going to tagra.com/cellucaps. So, have you encapsulated yet? Now back to the show.
Yeah. And, going back to a little bit about the biotech, it's definitely having a moment. And so I'm curious to hear if you have seen, in terms of the redundancy too that you mentioned, that formulation flexibility becomes strategic, right? So something that I try to avoid in formulating products is a single source that's a complex mixture that I will never be able to obtain. Exactly. Okay.
Great job.
Yeah. But it becomes difficult, right, to differentiate from brands, to have to, adopt technology. I think there was a challenge at Arkea where, we were identifying molecules that were new to the cosmetic space, right? We might not have, if, we had L'Oreal come to us and say, we want that, we wouldn't have been able to give it to them because we weren't at scale yet. Right. And so, what is that trade-off in terms of like innovation, but you have this kind of like bulletproof, I can get it from somebody else product?
Yeah, great question. Lots of layers. Great job on engineering your formulations properly. I think there's kind of like two ways. I mean, there's a whole lot of cool concerns I have actually coming out of the current like Strait of Hormuz problem. Like, the longer that stays closed, you're going to start seeing a lot of cosmetics impacted, from petrochemicals to then like natural organic ingredients via the fertilizer industry. Today, people are freaking out about the helium shortages. Apparently 33% of helium comes out of that strait,
interesting.
Which is necessary for the production of semiconductors, which is AI.
Okay. Yeah.
So that would not be great. But I think just kind of going back to like how you think about this, I laid it out to a founder, like, look, you have all this infrastructure in common manufacturing capabilities, and those businesses are so good at making a lot of the same thing for many different customers with micro differentiations.
Yeah.
You should leverage the best of the economics while still being as differentiated as possible through maybe some of these other specialized biotech ingredients, and finding the sweet spot of that matches your customer is like the whole game. If I could, like, that's the magic. I have seen other really interesting models start appearing. We've worked with a couple clients that have developed their own manufacturing capabilities. So they've said, this is novel, challenging, and specialized and amazing enough. I want to control and verticalize the whole stack. I want to vertically integrate. I want to really know and understand exactly how this is made, control my own supply, my own destiny. It's a much larger capital investment, but you have a way larger moat. And I know certain acquisition funds that chase and love this strategy, like, see it as a huge positive, but it is a very different style of operation and organization that we work on and support, and is maybe an option that people don't think about in the differentiation battle. If maybe you're really good at fundraising and you want to go the whole way. I think maybe the only thing I'll like caution as you like talk about like how to keep these formulations like very unique is that I think you and I both know from our experience together, like, your product and supply chain should be evolutionary. Like, yes, people love that one thing you made that one time, but like, you should expect it to continue to evolve, change, form into a new version, a better and better version of itself. Whether it's like getting new certifications, you've achieved like NSF and now the sports industry loves you, or if it's finally getting economics to that packaging that's better for the world that you want your customers to care about. Like, and I think that through that lens, like, maybe there's not like a silver bullet of like, I have the most unique product in the world. It's more like, I've built a brand and a company that will continue to push the envelope of the most innovative solution for the problem I'm solving in the world.
Yeah. And I think there's this fallacy that innovation is always like new product, right? But there is that incremental innovation, which is improvement to an existing product, performance, packaging, whatever it is, that could have.
I mean, Graza is a ridiculous brand, and they're just a squeeze bottle of olive oil, and like,
I know, but I love.
Oh, it squeezes.
I know. I personally, I love it. I cook with olive oil a lot. I think it's fantastic. But yes, that is a great example.
Still, just a really good olive oil,
Yeah. So, you mentioned the Strait of Hormuz, which is a bottleneck, a literal bottleneck. But what are the biggest operational bottlenecks that you also see today?
Globally, just everywhere and all. I mean, it depends on the brand and who you are. I mean, I think there's a lot of, like, it's been really interesting to see it like real time. Like, it's like supply chain science history happening in front of me with that problem. I think what I've observed most frequently, like I could describe to you kind of the most common supply chain problems that come with a certain age of a company, and what I mean by age is like growth scale or size, on this journey
maturity, right?
0 to 100 million, you get like new flavors of the same smell of a problem, and we're getting better and better at helping with those. I think that there's a pretty huge problem overall in low MOQ, short lead time manufacturing in the US.
Yeah.
For cosmetics specifically, like they have a really huge audience, scalability, and potential, and no one tends to want to innovate or invest in specializing in fast turnaround, short lead time solutions, and it always tends to be this like gap for everyone that's trying to innovate. I think in relation to lead times, I think that most of our beauty cosmetic clients really struggle with planning.
Yeah. Let's get into that, because I've had multiple clients go, well, how do we manage this better? Because, they'll want to run a product and it's like, you got to put in a PO. It's going to be 8 weeks. And the only way to actually get ahead of it is to be really good at demand planning, right? Like, what do you sell now? What do you anticipate? How much inventory do you hold? What is there a magic equation for that? Or do you just get it with experience? And knowledge and deep knowledge of your consumer base and selling patterns.
The architecture of the system, or like the problem itself, is very fun. It's a hard one to solve, right? So you're growing like crazy and you're converting all these new customers, and they're coming in from all different channels on TikTok and Amazon and wherever else. And you're launching new SKUs, and the new SKUs are adding more complexity, and they're on their own supply planning timelines and variable lead times. And so like, if you're, I think our company record is like multi-hundred thousands of SKUs, which is a really challenging, fun problem. But maintaining all the right inventory levels to meet that dynamic demand just with direct to consumer is like tough. And then once you sprinkle in like a mega Sephora moment, or like a retailer that just doesn't care to give you any forecast visibility, and they say, oh, and we'll flip the table, and we're out if you don't deliver on time every time. Right? So it's a very high stakes.
The only thing you get is like velocity, which means like, oh, it's already left your store.
It's very, very low data fidelity to do anything well with from a planning perspective. So under like significant startup cash constraints, I deeply empathize with the challenge of maintaining the right inventory levels of each of those SKUs with a lot of different inputs and outputs. And so as I'm describing this to you, there's no like, oh, well, this is the exact ratio for your inventory. And it's really actually just like the place I've seen companies struggle or fail is that it takes them like 2 weeks to gather the data to then make decisions, or they're never, as they're growing and adding more humans and people, they don't have all the right stakeholders or internal processes to like strategically look at this like complete picture dashboard and then make decisions and execute them for that time and place. And so you're like,
so having like real time. So like having real access to real time data is critical.
And the infrastructure to support that in the way that's high fidelity, and then also like very like high trust integrated humans across these very different departments. That is your like marketing growth team with one incentive, your finance like CFO that wants to keep everyone like low, like spending less, and then like your supply team that's like mad at everyone because there's out of stock again and it's their fault somehow, So I think that is like a really, that you can solve the majority of that by just having a really, really high fidelity system and a team following process in place at the right time.
Yeah. So if we were to think about, a founder launching tomorrow, and this is obviously the expertise that you bring via payment, people pay you to give them this expertise. But if we were to have, a brief, again, this is our conversation of, what is the simple framework that you would provide or tell a founder starting out for building that high fidelity, durable system in 2026 and beyond?
Yeah, I think I've found success working with a lot of really fantastic fractional resources at my first experience with Seed. And then I think Pelagic aims to be the dream service I wish I had in building and doing all that work. And so like, yes, joking way, pay us, but like working with experts can really save you so much
totally
pain. Some of my favorite founders are these like brilliant marketers or sales people or unbelievably technical PhD researchers, and they hate, don't know, or don't want to interact with supply chain because it's like kind of boring and kind of sticky. And so like it's worth it to you because the costs and the risks and the impacts of not getting us in there earlier are so damaging. Like you will burn months to years of time, the investor cash that goes with it. You'll lose your hair, get all frustrated, hit a lot of dead ends. So like I think just the sooner you can bring some expertise in that I'm acknowledging is hard to find in the industry for supply chain. And then like with that in mind, the reason that's important also is like supply chain itself is like a giant oil tanker. It doesn't turn quickly. Like you have to do these things before they happen. We have lots of clients that are like, I'm launching Target in 2 weeks. I changed my 3PL. Can you guys just fix it all tomorrow? And we're like, no, like that stuff takes like a long time to figure out and standardize and systematize and fix. And so just if you come work with us, just try to give us that the days of the week to solve the problems, right? Like the time is that most valuable resource.
Yeah. And I've had a number of guests that are fractional workers. I myself provide fractional product development resources. And I think it's been great to see that rise in fractional workers because they have such a deep expertise in that area, in a small area. And so, I totally hear and resonate with the, find some... You first have to have the humility to admit what you don't know and can't gain as a founder, which I think, makes any founder great when they don't assume that they're the smartest person in the room. And also to find these individuals that exist in companies like yourself that can support very specific needs. And
also, sorry, go ahead. But don't just give everything to agents either. Like let the experts use AI the best way it should.
Yes. Yes. And I think that's a good distinction too, right? When I think of fractional workers, I'm also thinking of like consultants that, have a deep caring, that end up having a deep caring for the brand. But I'm curious, when you're talking about, and obviously the expectation to make things happen quickly is a constant everywhere, whatever department you're in. But, do you think it's critical to lay the appropriate foundation? Like, so for a founder, going to you early so that, they're like, they won't make those mistakes that are costly, but also that if, you come in, that if the foundation is laid properly, it's easy to build up versus, having to deconstruct and do again. I'm going to assume yes, but.
Definitely. There's no one I've looked at and I've said, oh, it's too late for you.
Yeah,
your systems are dead. But I think but for sure, like the earlier the better, just because there's a lot of like traps along the way. I mean, I think we went through 4 or 5 major stockouts when you and I were working together that were miserable and lots of opportunity costs down the drain and pressure around that. Some of them were very reasonable, like, global pandemic occurred.
Yeah, there were wildfires in Southern California that impacted our warehouse. Yeah.
So we'll figure it out at whatever stage you are at, and I also don't want to say that like those systems need to be horribly complex either.
Sure.
I think there's just like there's a fundamentals that if you start on top of, like everything grows really nicely around it, versus like this very like warped kind of stuck over here type thing that's like, oh, we actually got to chop this down and start over, right?
Sure. And I'm curious for your take also, because you work across a variety of different industries, what makes the cosmetic, personal care, wellness space maybe more dynamic or unique or complicated than other industries you've worked with?
Yeah, I mean, I am no expert at all in cosmetics. I lean on a lot of like, there's my ego, but like I will say I think it's incredibly competitive.
Yeah.
So like and it's like a healthy competition, and so these companies need to be on it and producing amazing products and really high quality, and there is like this turnover to stay relevant and be cool in almost like a fashion level way that's very different than like, oh, I like my health and wellness supplements and I just keep it on my counter. It's like no, like you're blending yourself into someone's identity, and so like the tension and the need to be competitive and win in that marketplace is very, very strong. All that to say, I think also just it's a generally known fact that like margins are great because people are willing to pay for their amplified identities, and like so with a lot of money at stake to go be one in that marketplace, like it's you need all the help you can get.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you for this conversation. Is there any parting knowledge you'd like to give our listeners?
No parting knowledge, just that like super like grateful and humble and excited to get to work with founders this way and the work that we do. And I'm if anyone specifically wants to work with us more and more on kind of an impact orientation towards their supply chain, like that's my personal passion and orientation. It's why we're called Pelagic. Like there's so much waste in the consumer industry. It's something I stumbled into, and so if there are founders out there that are like, I have this crazy idea to like totally change like squeeze bottle nozzles or something, I'm like, cool, let's make it happen. Let's work together.
Nice. Well, wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.